Yeah, I would say I became much more decisive. I think decisiveness is really important. Again, this goes back to momentum, but making a decision, even if it's the wrong decision, is better than that sort of analysis paralysis, waiting around. Maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't.
Fear. Why were you being hesitant? What was going on?
I was afraid.
Yeah.
And I think the big part was I was able to pay my grandparents back because these were home equity loans, right? I don't want my grandparents' house taken away. Once I made whole on those loans, it was like, okay, it's on me now, not somebody else.
So you were afraid that you would fail your family, basically.
Yeah.
Once you got that
taken care of, and then I
freedom for risk,
and you become more brave. And bravery is not about not being scared. Everyone's scared. If you're in business and if you're in the restaurant business, you're scared.
Right.
You got to be. If not, you're lying. Bravery is about facing your fears and just doing shit anyway. That's bravery. And so I became more brave.
This episode made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, president and co-founder of Haven Hot Chicken, Jason Sobocinski. Jason, my man, are you feeling unstoppable today?
I'm feeling completely unstoppable.
Dude, I'm psyched to be here. I know in the past year, you went from 4 to 9 locations in 2024. Before that, opened in 2020 and went from 0 to 4 in 4 years. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That is correct.
So, and you were doing things before that too, which I'm sure we're going to dive into. 4 partners, which gets me really excited. I'm really looking forward to kind of like diving in. But before we do that, let's get this motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
Success quote or mantra. Let's see. The thing that I talk about all the time in my organization, other organizations, and pretty much throughout my entire career is momentum. It's not a success quote, I guess, but I constantly say the word momentum. I believe that business is all about momentum, and if you don't have it, and you're screwed.
So, I mean, what like break that down a layer deeper.
Yeah.
What is momentum in your words?
Momentum is upward movement, growth, going towards a goal. Obviously the opposite of stagnation, which in my mind is death.
Yeah. I'm listening to The Compound Effect. Have you ever heard of it, Darren Hardy?
I don't know that one, no.
It's really good, and I feel like that's a really great quote to get started today, because the idea behind the compound effect is just start and then little incremental like improvements thereafter. And like the hardest part for people is just to start, to have a vision, to have a goal, to make the choice to start, and then it's just about like showing up every day, doing the little things. But when you start small, just like pushing a huge boulder, you're not doing much. It's barely going, but that momentum makes it easier to push it a little bit faster. Then that momentum makes it easier, and then eventually you're steamrolling that thing.
That's it. You snowball.
Yeah, man, exactly.
Any action.
Compounding. Yeah.
Any action over inaction. Even if it's the wrong action, I have no problem with failure. I love failure. That's what we call opportunity. It's movement. And that to me is momentum.
Right. So before we dive into your story today, I kind of gave the listeners a big picture idea of who we're talking to. But like we mentioned, 9 locations. Big picture, what is your business today?
Haven Hot Chicken is Connecticut's first and, in my opinion, best Nashville-style hot chicken. But we're so much more than that. We're about quality. We're about hospitality. We're about opportunity. We're about philanthropy in our community.
Pull back all those layers.
Yeah, peel them off.
So 9 locations. Are they all? So right now, 4 seats in this location.
Yes,
we're taking up half. This interview is taking up half of your restaurant right now.
We're at 004 in North Haven, and you see it. There's 4 seats.
So counter service. Looking at your menu, we got very small menu. Total 10 items?
Yeah,
approximately. Throwing that out there. Lots
of modifications you can make, so thousands of choices, but yeah.
What percentage of your orders are pickup, like order in, versus online ordering?
So it varies from store to store, but typically we are about 30% third party, so that's Uber Eats and DoorDash.
Okay.
We're another 30-ish% where people are ordering online, walking in and picking up at the window. We have a pickup spot. And then the rest are people walking in and just ordering right from the counter or from one of our kiosks.
Okay, so 30% DoorDash. 30% online order through your own website, and the rest is walk-in.
Yep. And we
30%.
just introduced an app,
Cool.
which is launching February, the first sort of weeks in February, but it is available for download now, and you can use it. But we're doing like a full rollout in Feb, and the app is essentially will be the same as like if you go online to Toast.
Is that your only channel of revenue? Are you doing catering? Are you doing like memberships or anything like that?
We do catering, and we do catering organically. We also go through Easy Caterer, and then we also, go out into the community. And we do a lot of donations. That's not like a revenue stream, but it's a big part of what we do. But yeah, those are the main streams there.
Okay, so the magic number, the big number that everybody wants to know, what is your total gross revenue amongst all of your locations?
So we did just shy of 12 million in 2024.
What is your average per unit?
They vary. We have some units that are just around 2,
Okay.
and then some units that are in the sort of like 1.2 to 1.7 range.
Got it. And of your total revenue, I'm curious about this. What percentage of that would you say is catering versus traditional model?
Right now, catering is less than 5%.
Okay, got it. Thank you for answering all those questions.
Yeah,
I think
no problem.
now we're gonna kind of pull back those numbers as we go. But where does it make sense to start sharing your story?
I mean, how far back would you like to go?
Where does it make sense? I mean, I see in 2008 that was your first break into food and business as an owner. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I did small startups on my own. I've been in sort of food and beverage my entire life. I grew up cooking with my grandmother.
Okay.
I'm obsessed with food. I always said I don't want food to be part of my career because it's a passion, and work will be one thing. And I tried. And then it sucked me in.
Right.
And I ended up I went to Providence College for my undergrad.
What year were you there?
I was 2001.
Okay.
And then I worked a bunch of different jobs, marketing and, various things here and there. I did a lot of travel. I ended up going to Boston University for a master's degree in gastronomy. It was a program started by Jacques Pepin and Julia Childs way back in the day, and it was all about sort of an anthropological look at food and culture.
Yeah, dude,
why
anthropology, sign me
people
up.
sort of eat what they eat and how that defines them. And we've all heard, like, you are what you eat.
What was the impact that had on you?
It really gave me a deeper dive into how food defines us as people. And we're in a world now where there's access to almost every food you can possibly get. So I'm obsessed with that. I love learning about different cultures, and it got me interested. And so I parlayed that. I moved back to New Haven. Because,
what year was this?
That was 2008. I moved back to New Haven because my mother's Italian, and I could not be that far away from her. She wouldn't allow it. And I opened up my own sort of cheese shop and bistro.
Yeah.
And it did really well, and I used that business as a springboard for opening other businesses with partners. I opened a brewery with my brother and another partner, Tyler. I opened a bar with one of my former managers, Tim. It's called The Ordinary. Opened a cheese truck, grilled cheese truck that goes all over the state. We've got a couple of them now. Just a bunch of different offshoots where I got the inertia going and had partners come in, and they're running them. And it was a blast. And during my time at Casius, which was the cheese shop and bistro, I had a Yale student come in. His name's Ekin Tekin. He's now CEO and one of my co-founders. Came off the street, said, "Hey, I want to work here. I want to manage the beer program. I want to be a manager." And then he goes, and he reminded me of this conversation. I did not remember it, but he goes, "I want to partner with you on a business one day." And I was like, "Sure." I'm from New Haven, so there's lots of Yale guys and gals that come through, and sometimes they stay, but a lot of times they get an awesome education and then they leave. So maybe I was cynical, but 2018, Ekin had left Casius, gone off to a big corporate job, working for AB InBev. We stayed in touch, But in 18, he called me up and said, "Hey, I'm really interested in bringing you on board to a startup that I'm doing with a couple other guys. And we're going to do Nashville style hot chicken." Previous to that, Ekin and I had hung out in Nashville during a beer conference.
Did you go to Prince's?
We went to Prince's. We went to Hattie B's.
I had Hattie B's on the show.
We went to Bolton's. We went to Pepperfire. Like, we were obsessed.
Yeah.
It was wild.
I've had, I think to date, maybe 6 or 8 in that ballpark Nashville hot chicken concepts on the show. Like, have you heard of who have I had? Hattie B's, not Prince's. I would love to get Prince's on the show. I feel like they're like the OG.
They are the OG. Yeah.
Out west, there's Howlin' Ray's. You got Fry the Coop up in
Fly the Coop. Yep.
in Joe Fontana. You know Joe?
No.
Love Joe.
No, but I'd like to meet him.
Yeah, let me introduce you, please.
Let's make the connection.
I would love to make that happen. There's just, I mean, it's such a great concept that works so well. We'll get into the economics of why it works so well, and I think there's just lessons from doing one thing really well that we're going to dive into today. You said some things that kind of like really struck a chord with me. One thing that's, I think, the more I learn, the more I study people, I learn that the way to the future, I believe, this is my belief, the way to the future is in studying our past. And I think anthropology is such a great subject matter to study if you want to be successful in life. Just understanding people, human nature, why we are the way we are, how we
Absolutely.
got here. I want you to dive deeper into how that master's in what was the master's again?
At gastronomy.
Gastronomy. Yeah. Focusing on anthropology. Why can't I talk today?
Anthropology.
Thank you very much. Anthropology. And like really like, what was the biggest impression that made for you in terms of like how you do business today?
So I took what I learned in the gastronomy program, and I started my first business, which was Casey's Fromagerie Bistro. And our credo at Casey's was every cheese has a story. And I did not write so when I left in 2008, I did not technically graduate. I still had to write my master's thesis.
Okay.
And my master's thesis was actually opening a business and proving this hypothesis that the more you knew about a food, the story behind it, the better you could taste it, enjoy it, and really, dive into it fully.
How do you prove that?
By becoming very successful. And I did that.
So that was the whole idea of opening the provisions.
The idea was go in, start this business, and there was nothing like it in New Haven at the time. Now there's a bunch of different offshoots, but start this business where I can teach people about what they're eating and see if they like that. And I'd say 90% of the people really enjoyed that, where you bring over a cheese board and it's not like this is cow, sheep, goat, blue, but you actually tell a story. Yeah. About each of the different cheeses.
Where it came from, the origin, what makes this specific cheese and how they grow it or make it here or grow it, maybe the source.
Exactly.
Right?
And I'm sure you've heard, bringing it back to hot chicken, I'm sure you've heard the sort of like the legend of hot chicken.
Right.
Where, there's a woman who's scorned.
Right.
And she wants to literally and figuratively burn her husband. And she, kind of backfires because he ends up loving it, stealing the recipe.
Yeah.
And here we have this technique that now dozens plus different businesses are utilizing to make something that's just absolutely delicious.
Probably hundreds of Nashville hot chicken like people out there.
Just so many.
Yeah.
And you can use this technique of frying something twice and then dipping it into an oil in so many other applications besides just chicken.
Right.
And it's interesting because a lot of people, they'll sit there and be like, well, how do you have a crispy, crusty sort of outer coating if you're then dipping it into something wet? And it's like, well, because you're dipping into oil. There's absolutely no water. If there's any water in that, then it will become soggy.
Right.
But by dipping it into a hot oil that's at the right temperature and has the seasoning you're looking for, once that oil sort of sets, it actually gets crispier than if you didn't.
I'm going to be having one of these sandwiches.
You will be having one of these, yes, absolutely.
You can't talk about the food unless I get to have one. So, okay. But I think the reason why I like to bring it back to anthropology is because I do believe that food is why and who we are, what we are today, 100%. If you look at food and our relationship with food, it literally formed and molded Homo sapien. Like
without a doubt.
Like we figured out fire, like all these things. Like it was like food is the reason why we figured out the scientific revolution. Or
this is sort of why I was obsessed with cheese at the time, and also just fermentation in general. I have this whole, fermentation equals preservation.
Right.
When you preserve things, you can create commodities that can be traded. And without that, you can't have civilization.
Right.
So fermentation, preservation equals civilization.
Right.
Like if we didn't have this history of learning how to ferment things and preserve them, we wouldn't have the ability to have a civilization
Exactly.
in any way. Like somebody discovered that you could take milk and you could preserve it by
Right.
fermenting. And somebody discovered that, some fallen wheat in a puddle.
Baking, brewery, chemistry,
Exactly.
right? Agriculture.
You go hunt and gather.
Yeah.
I'll brew some beer.
Exactly.
I'll make some cheese. We start trading. Now we
Yeah.
can stay in one place. We start building civilizations. Like that to me is so interesting.
Right.
So what are we doing now?
Yes.
Is what I like to look at.
Yes.
That's going to form who we are in the future.
Yes, dude. This is where I was going. This is coming full circle. So when I say like my mission is to change the world through inspiring and empowering the restaurant industry, I think that we have gotten away from what it means to our relationship with food has really changed over the past 100 years, where it's become more transactional. Food is literally a commodity. It is
but
literally.
I'll
a
push
commodity.
back on that though, because I don't think we can decide. I think it's a change. I will agree with you on that. I don't think we're getting away from it though. I think we're changing things.
What are you
More
pushing
people-
back on exactly?
Well, I think that, especially in the United States, more people are looking at commodities as time. Like we can trade all the different things that we want to, but really it comes down to time.
Well, time comes
is
down
our
to service,
commodity.
right? So you have commodities, goods, services. Services
Okay.
save time, right?
But goods can save time.
Right, because-
Technologies can save time.
True.
The big thing that I trade in personally, I've got 3 kids. I've got this business that I'm fully entrenched in. I've got a couple others that I'm, having my hand in as well. I've got a wife. I've got a dog that needs to be walked. I mean, everybody, right?
Right.
Like we have all these conveniences that are available to us now. We still have to sustain ourselves and enjoy it through food. Why are more people taking less time cooking and spending more money in order to get that time back by going out to restaurants? What's happening right now in this time? And, restaurants and supermarkets and food in general is really expensive right now.
But is it relative to what point of time? Because
I
if
like
you go
that.
back
Is
to
it?
like 1920, 20% of the average household income was spent on food. Today it's like 9. So is it getting more expensive, or did it get really cheap? And
Did
relative
it get really
to
cheap?
us,
And are we spending on other things like
shoes? I got these after 2 years of wearing the same pair of shoes. Yeah, I'm with you though. So I think we're aligned.
Yeah.
So I guess my point is, I think that if we continue to the food will continue to shape the future, and if we become conscious of our decisions, if we associate conscious capitalism with the way we source and feed ourselves, like we can literally change the future. And I think the restaurant industry is positioned really well to educate people on the food system and how the food system ripples out.
I like that.
And I think that's kind of that's like my why. It gets me so excited to educate people and to empower independent restaurant owners to go turn around and empower their communities with knowledge. Back to the story, right? So 2008, you set off to do this, to take this business to be a catalyst for your passion, cheese, into your thesis, right? You said that you built all these businesses around it, like that business.
Well, I basically took the people that I was working with at that business and did offshoots, and so opened
vertical integration.
Yep, all the way.
Okay.
And it worked.
Okay, so where did you learn? Like, what was the inspiration behind this model of vertically integrating your businesses?
I wish I could say that I had a big inspiration. I think I enjoy working. I enjoy working with people. I enjoy telling stories. I enjoy creating brands, and I get bored easily if it's the same thing. So I look to grow. I look for, again, momentum, and if I don't have it, then
Got it.
I usually go away.
2008 to 2018 is the period, like a 10-year period before starting your. Would you say today your core focus is Haven Hot Chicken?
Yeah. Today's really about Haven Hot Chicken because this is the first business that I've ever scaled with a group of people to the size that it is now, and we're not big in the
momentum's
scope of
building.
things. The momentum is Yeah. It's a
I want to get to that, but I don't want to. I want to skip over any key aha moments or transformative points in your journey. So, what up, Unstoppables? I have a very special offer for you that could potentially change your life. So listen up. Restaurant Systems Pro wants to make 2025 your best year ever. And here's what they're going to do to help. When you sign up for Restaurant Systems Pro through February of 2025, they will do your books, your 2024 books for you at zero charge. Nothing to you, no cost to you to do your books. Plus, you're going to get all of the Restaurant Systems Pro profitability systems. So this is such a no-brainer deal. If you've heard of Restaurant Systems Pro in the past, listening to the podcast, and you've been interested, now is the time to sign up. Head to restaurantunstoppable.com/RSP or click the link below and make 2025 your best year ever. 10-year, 2008 to 2018. I like to go chronologically. So without getting into any detail, like when did you open your second or your first offshoot from Provisions?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't Provisions at the time.
Sorry.
Provisions is the one that still exists now. I know it's
Cassius?
Cassius. Yeah.
Cassius. So you have Cassius. You opened that. It
Yep.
was a bistro and Provisions, right?
Yep.
What was your first offshoot from there?
That was Ordinary.
Ordinary. How many years after 2008?
That was, we did that in 2014.
Approximately. 14.
Actually, no, that's not true. Mystic Cheese Company opened before Ordinary, and that was in 2012.
Okay. And what about the brewery?
The brewery just, that was 14 as well.
Okay. So you basically had a 4-year period before you went from 1 to 2 locations.
Yeah.
So,
and keep in mind, these are not locations. These are totally new businesses.
Got it.
With no sort of real tie-in except for myself.
Got it. So, but you were using your cheese store to feed those? Like, how were they vertically integrated?
No.
Because you have the cheese, the food truck, right?
Yes. The truck was definitely vertically integrated, but the bar and the brewery were just offshoots as far as I took the people I was working with and said, here, you want to do something else? Let's do this together.
I want to dive deeper into that. 2008, what were your biggest challenges opening your first restaurant or your first concept?
Money.
Yeah.
Had absolutely no money, and no one gives money for...
How much did you need?
I ended up needing about $150,000.
How much did you have?
I had zero.
How did you raise it?
I took out loans with my 2 different sets of grandparents.
Okay.
Paid them back in full.
I love that. Do you think privilege is a bad thing?
No.
Why?
Why? I mean, why would privilege be a bad thing?
Well,
I guess I'll ask you. I'll answer
I
your
think that
question
there's
with a
like
question.
a lot of like negative air around this word of privilege, and people with privilege should feel guilty or for whatever reasons or have an air of guilt associated with their privilege. I think if you have privilege,
I guess before I let you finish, and I love to interrupt people, so I apologize ahead.
You're here to talk.
Define privilege. Because when I think of myself, I didn't grow up with money.
I think privilege is relative.
You know, those loans were home equity loans that my grandparents took out. Like they took a risk.
Right. I think privilege is relative. I think if you're in this country of the United States, you relative to the rest of the world, you're privileged, right? And I think that we tend to look to others who have more and think that we're underprivileged relative.
Absolutely.
So I think I think everyone has a certain level of privilege compared to somebody else, right?
Without a doubt.
But I think that if you have privilege and you don't choose to use it, then that's more of a sad thing than having
that's a waste.
And exactly. Yeah. So like, what are you choosing to do with your privilege, your opportunity? And for you, you're clearly using your privilege to create opportunity for other people.
Absolutely.
So what's wrong? So like,
I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah, if you have privilege and you have this opportunity to leverage that, then absolutely go use that privilege is my perspective.
I like that. I would agree with that.
So you get your money from family essentially. Yep. Was $150,000 enough?
We made it enough.
Nice.
I built the whole thing myself with my friends, my wife's uncle, who's like a carpenter. Like we made it work.
So for you as a restaurateur, what was your own personal struggle aside money? Always a challenge for the restaurant industry.
Always.
But what else?
I think time.
Yeah.
My wife and I got married in between lunch and dinner. Walk down to City Hall. And we had a wedding years later, but time.
Have you gotten better at that?
Oh yeah, much better.
So what was the first, like, what was like the first point of traction when you're like, okay, this is something I can start doing today to be better with time? When did it start to shift for you?
I got better with it most recently, I'll say. So it's taken a long time. I realized I actually had a mentor who said, stop making the business about you, make it about the brand. Yeah. Because if you continue to make it about you, you will never be able to walk away from it. You'll never have a day off. You'll be screwed. Right. And I took that to heart and started focusing on trusting the people that I'd hired. I remember I used to, back in the early days, I used to literally talk to other business owners and be like, well, who closes? And they're like, our managers close. And I'm like, but you don't stay to the end of the night? Because I would stay every single night. Like,
why did you feel like you had to do that?
Because my baby.
Yeah. So what changed?
I started trusting people.
When did this happen?
Probably around 2010, like 2 years in.
So 2 years in. Yeah. And then when you started trusting people, how did your business start to change?
I was able to grow.
Yeah. And what did that look like? How did that manifest?
I was able to do other projects because I was able to have people who, because I trusted them, they would take on more responsibility and do those responsibilities in a way that I would actually want them to. That was the big learning point, is like, if you don't trust people, they're not going to do a good job.
Right. What was
period.
Yeah. What was the biggest struggle for you in giving up trust or lending trust?
It's like you have to jump off a cliff and just say, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to be okay with things fucking up. Right. Oh, can I say one?
You can say whatever.
Okay.
I'm talking to restaurant owners. I know.
So yeah, that I would be okay with things fucking up. I'd be okay with failure. And now, huge shift. I embrace failure on a daily basis. Failure is fantastic. Failure is where we learn. Failure is opportunity. We fail all the time in all these businesses. And what we found is that as long as we meet those failures head on, we can actually pull bigger learnings out of them, and sometimes connect with guests on a level that we would never be able to.
Right. And
they become better guests.
I love that. So you start trusting. I think that's synonymous with delegating, right?
I was delegating before. I was just micromanaging.
Okay, gotcha.
So I would delegate something, and then I would go check on it 10 times.
Okay.
Nobody wants to work like that.
Got it.
That sucks.
Yeah. So what were the other big lessons from 2008 to say 2000, from 2008 to 2018, when you have this new, really hover over those points of evolution?
Yeah, I would say I became much more decisive. I think decisiveness is really important. Again, this goes back to momentum, but making a decision, even if it's the wrong decision, is better than that sort of analysis paralysis, waiting around. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I won't.
Fear. Why were you being hesitant? What was going on?
I was afraid.
Yeah.
And I think the big part was I was able to pay my grandparents back because these were home equity loans, right? I don't want my grandparents' house taken away. Once I made whole on those loans, it was like, okay, it's on me now, not somebody else.
So you were afraid that you would fail your family, basically.
Yeah.
Once you got that taken
care of, and then I
freedom for risk,
and you become more brave. And bravery is not about not being scared. Everyone's scared. If you're in business and if you're in the restaurant business, you're scared.
Right.
You got to be. If not, you're lying. Bravery is about facing your fears and just doing shit anyway. That's bravery. And so I became more brave.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I think that's also what freedom is choosing to face your fears and take on the burden. I think so often we think freedom is I want to be able to sit on the couch and do whatever I want to do, whatever lazy thing I want to do. I want freedom of time to go sit on the beach. There's not a lot of fulfillment in that, but there is fulfillment in choosing to take on the hard thing and to tackle it and to overcome it. And when you choose to do these things, to have freedom of purpose and freedom of intention, that is so rewarding. And I think that is a better source, a better version of freedom than just being able to do what you want, or do nothing. Right.
No, I would agree with you, but sitting on the beach is pretty awesome.
Yeah, occasionally for sure. Taking a break.
But it tastes so much better
Right.
when you've earned it.
Right.
Like anything else.
Exactly.
Right. I mean,
or if your mind is still in the restaurant while you're at
have you read Comfort Culture?
I have not.
Oh no, sorry, misquoted. Comfort Crisis.
No.
So Comfort Crisis, and this kind of goes along with, you know, the fear and the freedom. Comfort Crisis, this guy, Michael Easter, that wrote it, basically his hypothesis is we have too much comfort. And he talked to a bunch of psychiatrists, psychologists, physiologists, and what they're finding out is that with a ton of comfort, you can have the same sort of traumatic brain experience as if you went through trauma. So comfort can create trauma, especially in excess. So like when everything's on demand and everything's easy and there's no challenges, especially physical ones, it actually hurts us more.
Yeah. What's the science behind that? Do they like break down why that's the case?
He goes into the why behind it, and I don't have like the science enough of the science to quote it. But I went winter camping with my 11-year-old, and he hated it. But when we got home, he took a hot shower, and when he got out of the shower, he had this like, Dad, that shower was.
Right, relativity.
You know, and I was like, yeah, because you earned it, because you froze. We slept outside in 20-degree
weather.
weather.
How good you have it.
Like that reminder of let's stress out a bit,
right?
So that when it is time to have that comfort, it's that much more meaningful.
Right. Exactly. I think if I had to guess, I would say it's because of relativity. Because relative to the modern human, first world country modern human, we have it so easy. Dude, like and all we know is what we know relative. But if you look back not that long ago, dude, the hot running water wasn't an invention to like the 19th century, like 200 years ago. Like
I'm old enough to remember not having a cell phone.
The 20th century.
Yeah.
It was like 1930 or something like that. 20s, like not that long ago. Like we have no sense. But to your point, like if you get so soft because you don't push the envelope. Mm-hmm. You don't galvanize yourself. Like that can be dangerous.
It's just really interesting that, you know, and it connects with food, of course,
right.
Because if all you ever do is go out to eat,
back to hunter gatherers,
and
you have to risk your life to eat.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that mushroom edible? Let's find out.
How much better does it taste if you earned it?
Let's go tackle that mammoth. You know, like let's do this. But yeah, I mean that's really interesting. So. Any other key lessons in like, you know, the come up before I pull out one other thing before we get to 2018?
No, hit me with the next one.
So one thing that stuck out to me, and I wrote it down, was this gentleman who your current business partner, Etkin. Am I saying his name correctly?
Etkin, yeah.
Etkin. I want to be your partner. I want to partner with you. This employee that came to you and said, one day I want to partner with you. When he said this to you, you said your reaction was, okay, buddy. Yeah, like it kind of just rolled off your shoulder or whatever, brushed off. What are your thoughts on partnerships and creating opportunity for people?
I love partnerships. I got out of my only business that I was the sole proprietor of. That was Casey's Fromagerie Bistro. And I brought my brother in and we started the cheese truck and Casey's Provisions, which is now what's currently open. And I have no other businesses that I don't have a partner on. Okay. I absolutely believe in them. I've had partnerships blow up. I also believe in really robust partnership agreements that you should absolutely have a lawyer check.
That's my next question.
But I learned from that, you know, those scenarios, and I'm a better business person because of it. But I think partnerships are really, really important. I don't think that business is easy. I think that, you know, having a team, having people to rely on, it goes back to being able to have time to be with your family or with yourself or with your dog even, knowing that you have someone who also has an ownership stake that can be there when you're not or oversee when you're not is great. It's a great feeling.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm a team guy. I'm a sports guy. Soccer is my sport. That's a partnership.
Yeah.
You know, there's 11 people on the pitch. Like,
yeah, there's different
you gotta work
skill sets
together
on the field.
And the skill sets are the biggest thing is the skill set. Like I don't know much about much.
Right.
I know what I know, and that's about it. And I'm learning daily, but like I need and everyone else needs these other specialists,
right.
even generalists who have different ideas and opinions. I think it's It's what makes you strong as a business.
Yeah, 100%. I'm a huge believer, and it's one of the biggest lessons I've learned on the show is that if I think to be successful in the future, you can't do it alone anymore.
No.
I think there was a period of time where you could be a sole proprietor, but if you want to be the best and be a sole proprietor, it's going to be, unless you're a freak of nature, and they do exist, you won't be able to be the best alone. You have to, you need partners. So partnership agreements, you mentioned that. What elements of a partnership agreement, I mean, through your experience, like what are like the most important, like can you dive into like specific
whatever
advice?
makes you feel extremely uncomfortable when you're talking about it with your future partners, that's going to be something you want to have in your partnership agreement.
Yeah.
Hey, if you die,
Yeah.
I don't want to work with your wife or husband.
If you're doing a shit job,
Yeah.
and I don't want to work with you anymore, what are we going to do?
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
just lay out the scenario, and it's
Yeah.
super uncomfortable.
Right.
Of course, that's never going to happen. Oh yeah.
People change.
People change, and people
aspirations change.
are people, which means that they're not perfect.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah, we're
and that's
human.
great. I don't want to partner with anyone perfect.
Right.
No, thank you. That does not sound fun.
Did you have a lawyer in your first partnership agreement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
What would you say a good number to budget for a partnership agreement?
That's a tough one. I'm not really super numbery guy. I know that
I've heard $10,000.
they can so they can range from probably $5,000 to $50,000 depending on how robust or how
many
big
people are
you know
involved?
or who your lawyer is.
Right.
You know.
Was it a friend? So what about like key elements of a part? You said a very robust partnership agreement. Are there things that you like to sew into your partnership, or how do you even like form your partnerships in terms of like people are like, there's not enough money in the restaurant industry to split it up 4 ways or 5 ways. Like where does the money come from? Like, how do you fight that statement?
Well, that's not my department. I'm not in business to make money.
What are you in business for?
I like to create brands. The money comes. I think if you're first and foremost like, let's do this to make money, I've not seen a ton of success. Now, keep in mind, I have partners who are laser focused on money, and I need them. I'm not that guy.
Yeah. Which guy are you?
I'm brand,
Marketing?
protect the brand, marketing, creative, culture, quality of product. Make sure that I'm proud of it. Make sure others are proud of it. Make sure we're engaging with our community. All those things.
What's Etkin? Or who's Etkin in terms of the partnership?
Ekin's aligned with a lot of those, but he's definitely going to keep us profitable.
Is he a systems guy? Operations?
So Ekin brings a lot of the sort of cultural, corporate culture. So I've never worked corporate. I've never been in any kind of corporate situation. I've always been an independent. Ekin worked at AB InBev for years and years and years. He is steeped in corporate lingo, corporate organization, and I see a ton of power in that, and we balance each other very nicely because I can remind him every once in a while that some of this stuff is kind of stupid.
You said 4 partners. You mentioned your brother's as a partner?
Yep, my brother came on a little bit later on. He's one of the partners. He's in growth, so he's going out right now, and he does site selection, build out. He's also on top of maintaining all the stores.
What's his background?
He's an entrepreneur like me.
Okay, got it. And
No.
2 other partners silent?
No. Craig is our CIO. So he does all the tech side, all the tech stack, keeps all of that in track, adds, subtracts, and there's a lot of that because that's the restaurant industry now. It's technological as all heck. And then there's Rob, who is on the operations side and also culinary side. These recipes are Rob's recipes. So chef, just fantastic at creating recipes, creating systems within those recipes. The first time I met with Rob and Craig, well, first off, when Ekin asked me, do you want to join this team? I said, absolutely not. No, thank you.
Did he ask you in 2018?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys opened your first location 2 years after that.
Yeah. It was probably late 2019, 18. 19, we did a ton of research. We did pop-ups throughout all of New Haven at some of my businesses and some local restaurants. We got a great following. We started our Instagram. We'd sell out on pop-ups. Then the pandemic hit, and we were kind of like, well, what are we going to do? And that's when we sort of pivoted the idea of having a full-service restaurant to a QSR. But when I first sat down and was convinced to join the team, it was mostly because of Rob.
Okay. So Rob was somebody you didn't know.
I knew of him. He was a New Haven chef.
Okay.
I knew who he was. We had crossed paths before at dinners and things like that. But I sat down. The product was out of control. It was some of the best I'd ever had. So I became obsessed with it. But Rob sat down and opened up his laptop, and he had every single ingredient broken down. He had VLOOKUP on his Excel. He just really impressed me as not just a chef who could, wield some knives and swing some pots. He knew the system behind it. And I was like, wow, okay, this is fleshed out. This is so much more than just a restaurant. This is a brand. This is a full concept.
Right.
And I got really excited about it.
Right. Were you profitable in 2018 with the other businesses? Were you making money?
Yeah.
What was give me an idea. Like, what was your quality of life at this point?
I was making a lot of money at Casius.
Okay.
And so my quality of life was great. It was robust. Yeah.
What were you like? Could you talk about gross at that point?
I mean, I was taking home a couple $100,000.
A couple $100,000.
You know,
and that was your profit?
Yeah.
And what percent profit what do you think is a good percentage of profit to aim for?
I mean, it really depends on the business.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, if you're an
QSRs
independent,
are very profitable.
if you're an independent restaurateur and, you're doing well, you're doing a lot of catering, you're sold out, reservations, things like that. If you're bringing home a couple $100,000 as, early 30s.
That's great. That's
great.
huge.
It was great.
Yeah. And you say, they say like $80,000 if you live modestly is about all you need to, if you have purpose and freedom of purpose, freedom of relationships, freedom of time, $80,000 is enough for you to really be happy and cover most of your your critical needs. If you,
Who says that?
If you're single, maybe.
I would say single and maybe not living in Connecticut.
Maybe not living in Connecticut. There's some probably relativity. But if you choose to live modestly, I guess,
sure.
Cover your most food, heat, hot water, your physiological needs and maybe some insurance. And if you choose to not have nice things, right?
You
can achieve happiness is the point I'm trying to make.
So I think that's a very
100,000,
personal thing though, right?
It is relative as well.
A lot of people take tons of pleasure from just going on a hike.
Right.
Whereas I have friends who collect just bizarre things that cost a lot of money. I have a friend who bought his wife a pocketbook.
Right. Those could be considered assets too if they're the right bizarre thing, right?
I mean, if it brings you happiness,
right,
and you can afford it, I guess who am I to judge?
I feel that, but I guess with the point I'm trying to make with $200,000, if you're doing what you love, to your point earlier, you don't get into this industry to make to make money.
No,
but you can because that why, that purpose, that passion, that desire,
and that's a good year, right? You have bad years too.
True.
When you take home $45,000.
Right.
I wasn't pulling a salary. I was taking whatever was left from the business.
Right. I mean, the big point I want to make with this idea of I want to be your partner or I want to partner with you is that back to this idea that I think the restaurant industry has the power to change the world, in that if you think about your job as a restaurateur to literally create opportunity for other people, to spread your money out, to say, hey, if you're working with me and you're super talented, and you have dreams of opening a restaurant one day and I'm afraid of losing you, I could invest in you. We could go further together. I might have to split the profit of that restaurant with you, but that's 50% of profit that I wouldn't have otherwise had access to. Right.
And that's kind of what I've done. I mean, when I got to the point with Casius, my first business, where I was like, I don't really want to do this anymore. Been going for 12 years, really successful. My chef at the time had come to me and said, I'm ready to go out on my own. And I said, great, take this place. You take this.
Yeah.
I'll sell you this. I'll keep a small percentage, and then over the years, my percentage will dwindle down to nothing.
Right.
And next year, I will own nothing of what is now Olmo, which pivoted into a bagel shop, but took over for Casius.
Yep.
And he's doing fantastic, and I'm so proud of what he's been able to grow and do with me and now without me.
I love that. So 2018, you get together with Etkin and Rob and
Craig,
sorry.
Yep.
Wait, is there a Rob? Because I wrote that.
Yeah, no, Rob. Yep.
Rob,
Craig, Etkin.
Did Craig come on later?
Nope. They all
the same time?
Yep, all the same
Your brother
time.
was later.
My brother was, about a year later.
And you decide, first you're thinking maybe sit down, like casual dining, and then you decided to do QSR. You said you started with pop-ups.
Yep.
Why did you think that, whose idea was it to start with pop-ups?
We wanted to prove the concept. There was no hot chicken in the area at the time.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to make sure people would be interested in it.
Right.
This is brand new.
Right.
So we did a number of pop-ups that were really successful. We did one, it's actually the reason why we are halal. We did a pop-up at an Indian restaurant down in New Haven, and they asked us to only use halal chicken. And we were like, sure. And Rob was like, this chicken's awesome. I love the consistency. I like it better. We're going to go halal. Like, great. We ended up doing that one. I remember I went outside. Rob grabbed me and he was like, I don't know how many people are waiting outside to get in, but like with the tickets I have up, that's all the food we brought.
Oh, wow.
So I went outside. There were probably about 75 to 100 people waiting in line for the next one.
Nashville was viral at this point.
Yeah. It was exploding.
Yeah.
People were traveling
right.
into New Haven for our pop-ups.
Yeah.
Ended up giving away T-shirts that I'd meant to sell, and people would hold them up and say, I waited in line for 45 minutes, and all I got was this shitty T-shirt.
Well, so I want to focus on the branding, the culture, because you said that's kind of your lane where you focus. And from your perspective, your lessons, what you were doing, what you were contributing to. I always want. Is it Haven or Haven? It's Haven, right? Because we're in North Haven. Is there a play on that?
New Haven.
New Haven, like having hot chicken, or is it? Just
No, like a haven, like a place you can go.
Oh, Haven hot chicken. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like that. Was that your idea?
No.
Okay.
Nope. Rob and Ekin and Craig had solidified the name and pretty much this logo by the time I came on, and we became official.
Right. So, I mean, the way you guys did this, though, if I'm opening a restaurant tomorrow, I'm starting as a pop-up. I'm leveraging relationships. To your point, I'm testing the market. I'm fine-tuning the recipe.
Yep.
What along that line? What else did you learn, or why start as a pop-up? Like, what
I
advice
mean,
do you have?
we learned a ton for operations.
Yeah.
We learned what people like and don't like. I mean, because we were doing all sorts of different chicken on the bone. Again, the concept was going to be more of a restaurant. Come in, fast casual, sit down, have a drink, maybe have some appetizers. And we were ready for that. And then the pandemic hit. And it was like, okay, well, we don't know when the next time people will be able to sit in a restaurant is. Like, we didn't know. Is it going to be a year, 2 years, 3 years, ever? Right? Like, people were like freaking out. And a business went out. I had, networking wise, I had gone to high school and college with the landlord's brother. So got through the grapevine, hey, do you want this space? And we're like, yeah, we'll take that space. We'll give it a shot. And we opened up October 2020. So like when we first opened, pretty much no one could walk into the store. Like New Haven had some pretty strict rules. Everything was curbside. So we brought everything out to people's cars. Some people would pop their trunks and we would put the bag in and they'd be like, all right, go inside and I'll get out and close the trunk. Like it was wild. But it hit. It was comforting. It was spicy. Textures were there. It was rich. And it was new. And it was during a time where people were like
trying
to like do anything to get the hell out of the house, but not go anywhere.
Right.
So it was really good timing, and we were able to pivot really quickly from this full sit down, booze, servers, etc., to QSR.
Your first ever QSR.
First ever QSR.
Yeah. What was the learning curve relative? Like, was it easier or harder?
It's successful, so it was not easy. No, it was hard. We learned a ton, and we fell flat on our faces all the time.
What were the biggest struggles for you in the early days?
I think speed, accuracy, a lot of orders coming in all at once, learning it's okay to throttle, slow things down, systems, creating those systems like within the moment. Those are some of the bigger challenges. Ekin and I say this often. Our biggest asset that we have as a business is people. And our biggest challenge that we have as a business is people.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I will always go back to that. People is one of the biggest challenges. But it's your culture and your system and your values that attract the right people and retain the right people. So I guess you could look at those as being the real issues that you have to perfect or can constantly work on.
Right. I want to dive more into people, but before we move away from pop-ups, there's one more thing I'm curious about, which I think back to your idea of starting small and scaling, and testing the market and all these things. When did you develop the brand when you were doing your pop-up? From day one, did you have a name? Did you have a handle?
We did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. From day one, we intentionally worked with a couple really cool companies that ended up actually investing in us. We worked with a graphic market designer to have like a VBI, a visual brand identity, and create a brand book.
Okay.
Which for a single unit,
as a pop-up or as a single unit?
No, essentially as a pop-up that was building, towards that, was well ahead of a lot of people. We also worked with a company called Service Physics. Highly recommend you tap into these guys. They worked with Ekin at AB InBev and ended up leaving. And they've worked with Starbucks. They helped Starbucks optimize or essentially create their drive-through process. And those guys worked with us on a lot of our systems. We did things like set up cameras and looked at the movements of the people in our kitchens, and we followed them. Like, we had a draft of our kitchen. Here's the walk-in. Here's where the Bain Marie is. Here's where the fryers are. And we put a pen down, and each person just had to follow that person on video. And at the end, we look at this spaghetti diagram, because that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Like all these, it's like, oh, wow. We can become more efficient. We can become better before we go to our first brick and mortar. And that stuff, I think, made us super successful.
Right.
I think that was big.
Yeah, that is huge. And I like to say a lot of time people have success with the brand. They're busy, right? And they think busy is successful. And they think we got to grow. We got to put our energy out. We got to go out. We're growing. They think of growth as spreading out. But if you take that energy and you pull it in, and you put it into what you're already doing better, and you streamline,
and better it,
and you get better systems, better margins, more profitable. Like, how can I? And you get to the point where people are literally knocking down your door because they say, we want to be a part of this.
Right.
That's like that. I think that's when you start thinking. But the argument to that is, if you have a hot concept and somebody else sees what you're doing, they'll try to recreate it and get to market faster than you, or scale faster.
Yeah, and we've got over in Orange, where our store 2 is, right down the road, probably about less than a mile, there's a direct competitor opening up.
Oh, wow.
And they're big.
I want to guess.
Dave's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're growing pretty fast too. Huh?
They are.
That Northeast race is on.
Yeah.
Man.
No, the race is on for the Northeast.
Yeah.
Besides Dave's, we're probably the biggest in the Northeast, even though we're just in Connecticut. And we feel, quality-wise, that we're Northeast's hot chicken brand.
Yeah. What up, Unstoppables? I have a very special offer for you that could potentially change your life. So listen up. Restaurant Systems Pro wants to make 2025 your best year ever. And here's what they're going to do to help. When you sign up for Restaurant Systems Pro through February of 2025, they will do your books, your 2024 books for you at zero charge. Nothing to you, no cost to you to do your books. Plus, you're going to get all of the Restaurant Systems Pro profitability systems. So this is such a no-brainer deal. If you've heard of Restaurant Systems Pro in the past, listening to the podcast, and you've been interested, now is the time to sign up. Head to restaurantunstoppable.com/RSP or click the link below and make 2025 your best year ever. Questions I want to ask. I don't want to lose them. I mean, there's so much I want to ask you. We got about...
I have ADD, so you can jump around wherever you want.
We have about 15... Here's a question I want to ask.
Yeah.
Can I come back and talk to some of your partners?
Yeah, of course.
Because I'm loving what I'm getting.
Yeah.
I really want to dive deep into the tech stack stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to set you up with Craig.
Yeah, your branding, your culture. And I think that you kind of started alluding to like the people side of things. So I think that is that fair to say, like, that's your strength, your passion is the people side of things?
I wear a lot of hats.
Yes. Well, I mean, if we have literally 16 minutes to talk together, what do you want to talk about? What is something?
There's
that you
a
think
million
we need to
things.
discuss?
I mean, we could talk about. I would say that if you want to look at the Haven Hot Chicken story and how we really started to level up, we could look back at 2024. We had a lot of bumps. A lot of bad mistakes that ended up being great because we learned from them and we've optimized. We did a menu refresh. We hired a couple of amazing people. Gretchen Barkis, 25 years at Starbucks. She's our COO, operations wizard. She's writing and has written and continues to write sort of the book that is Haven Hot Chicken, how we do what we do. Connor Burley, got him through Ekin, through AB InBev, strategy and finance.
Right.
Frickin' game changer.
What did he teach you in strategy and finance?
Process. Like sitting down and saying like, okay, this is how we have to look at things and compartmentalize them so that we can actually form an actual strategy. And then finance side, I have no freaking clue.
Yeah.
But he can take numbers and he can make things work. And so we can go to him and say, we need this and we need this and we need this. And he'll say, here's how we do that.
Yeah. That's something I'm horrible at.
Yeah, me too.
As I think as a lot of entrepreneurs, we're dreamers.
I know what I want.
Right. We're dreamers. Like
Yeah.
we have the vision. We have the ideas. We're good with people. We can sell the vision. But when it comes down to, we live in the clouds. We're why guys, but when it comes down to getting into the dirt, you're like, well, how the hell am I going to do this? Like what comes first? That's a lot of entrepreneurs, restaurateurs' biggest challenge. Having that operations person is key.
Yeah.
100%.
No, Gretchen has leveled us up in a huge way. I mean, we've been presented with a ton of really cool opportunities. One of the things that I'm doing right now with Ekin is raising funds. We can't.
You're at that weird spot, 9 locations. It's like a whole, you got to build the C-suite. You got to build the house before you move into it.
We did a friends and family, raise to get things going. We did a convertible note. We raised a little bit of money, built a store. We did a seed round.
What's a convertible note?
Convertible note is basically a round where you raise money and you give a better deal for when your actual round hits for equity. So we did convertible notes, and then when the actual round closes, which is the seed round, the money that was put in prior converts into equity, but at a better deal than when you're doing the actual round.
Got it.
So people are taking
incentivize.
a little bit more of a risk.
So is that basically like that's a higher risk and it's maybe a lower bar to prove to other people? Because typically when you're trying to raise money, is like once you get 2 or 3 people or 4 people, if you can say we have 4 people,
Absolutely.
then people are like,
Other people are
they
came in, so
right.
I feel confident.
So friends and family, then seed.
Friends and family, a small convertible.
Small convertible.
Then we did a seed.
Seed. How's seed different from small convertible?
You're actually selling equity.
Got it.
And then we just did another convertible note most recently because we're going to start franchising.
Okay.
That's our next big push. We're going to get out of the state of Connecticut, New York, Providence, Cranston, the Rhode Island area. Going to get up into the Boston, sort of Newton, Framingham.
Nobody wants
North
to come to New
Andover.
Hampshire.
No, New Hampshire's on the list. But we have to sprawl, right? I don't want to jump a state.
Yeah.
And franchise. And so we're currently writing our FDD and our FA, and we're diving into franchising and creating all the materials that it'll take to franchise.
Right. Who are you going to for that?
We are working with a law firm called Internicola.
Internicola. And how did you discover this law firm?
They came as a reference to us, and I can't remember who.
All right.
Because we did we talked to a lot of different franchise experts and different law firms. And we ended up just landing with these guys because we jived.
Yeah. I want to talk about people.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, you said, it's all about managing people. Like it's the secret and also the biggest challenge, right? How have you become a better leader and a manager of people? How are you better today than when you got started?
I think, and I mentioned this before, but you gotta live your values. You gotta define your values in order to attract the right people. You've got to have great compensation, obviously, or else you're not going to attract the right people that are go-getters, that are hungry. They're worth something. You have to pay them, and that goes all the way from top to bottom. And you have to align with them on your overall culture and then values as well. Again, I mean, it all comes back to values, right?
Right.
Like, are you excited about this business? Connor often says, I love working here because I like attacking the challenges. They're interesting to me. Right? Like, great. That's Connor's thing.
Yeah.
I think every single person's a little bit of an individual, obviously. And so you gotta know who they are. What do they want?
Do you do any like personality assessments? Is that a part of your team's?
Not on a formal level.
Okay.
I mean, we definitely get to know people.
Yeah.
And do a robust background, check references, all that. But it's really about, do you click with somebody? Are they aligned with getting after the same things you're looking to get after? Do they like the same values? You learn pretty quickly. I have a mentor who told me, don't worry about what you pay people. Like, don't look at it as the yearly salary. Look at it as 1 quarter, right? You're not going to pay somebody $100,000. You're going to pay them $25,000. You will know. You will know within a quarter if they're the right person.
Right. When you're writing, like, I'm assuming at this point you have your values written somewhere. Safe to say. What are your core values?
We have a lot of them.
Is there a right number to have, you think?
I want to hone down on less, but teamwork is a big one for us. Rigor. We want to be data-driven. We want to be really rigorous. Those are the two. Positivity. We're not looking for people who have closed mindsets. We want open mindset. We want people who are positive and go-getters and like are always looking for opportunity rather than fault.
Yeah.
Those are the main values. We have a set that goes on and on.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that resonate with me, and then each of the founders has their own that resonates with them within that set.
Yeah. Have your values changed over time?
I think that, again, it really depends on the situation. But yeah, values end up changing. I mean, you look at that situation and say, like, well, okay, can I call up this value, or do I have a new value? My big thing, again, comes down to mindset and momentum. I want a mindset of wanting to move forward. I don't want to dwell on things. I don't want to beat things to death. That's an opportunity, aka we fucked up and failed.
Yep.
Let's learn from it.
Right.
If we're learning, air quotes, if we're learning the same lesson over and over again, we probably are
do it better.
we need to make a change.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes very evident.
Yeah.
And that's a value too, right? Like,
I think people
make
get
a change.
Like really stressed out with their values, like the process of like committing and writing down your core values. I think to your point, just write them all down. Just get them all down, write them down. You're going to start with a lot of values, but I think over time, and also know that they can change.
Yeah.
They should change.
They should change.
As a human being, you should be growing and learning, and your perspective is going to shift with time. Just write something down. I think move in a general direction, right? North. Then over time, north is anywhere from, 90 degrees over to like 270 degrees. Go in that direction. But eventually you can get to 0 degrees or 1 degree or, 100 or 359 degrees. Like you'll hone it in over time, right? But just start moving in a direction and hone it in with time. And then I think also you can group core values.
Absolutely.
You can find the word and you can make it more succinct with time. But just get something on paper. And then everyone who comes to your team, like, are they this person? Are they us? You need to filter. Just start somewhere.
Yeah. No, we if you go into the kitchen, which I'll take you in later, and you look up, we've got all our values.
Oh, I love that.
Postered up. And Gretchen had the great idea that we're going to be doing this quarter, where we're going to create cards for each of the values. And when our team members notice someone doing something that resonates with a value, they can hand them a card.
Yeah.
And if you collect all 7.
Yeah. Like I said, I do want to come back. We got about 7 minutes left together. I want to start wrapping things up. You did say 2:30 hard stop, right?
Yeah, I gotta
So
jump on another one.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, real quick, I do want to come back and try to get maybe Craig, because I love talking about tech stack, technology systems. I think.
I would like one thing that we have not touched on, and we don't have to do it today because we can do it another time. But like, we haven't talked at all about our engagement with the community, because I believe it's one of our biggest assets right now. Philanthropy and community engagement have put us where we are, and we wouldn't be where we are without the communities that we engage with.
Yeah. What about marketing budget? Do you spend a lot of money on marketing, or do you consider that your marketing?
I consider that part of our marketing budget.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think 100%. Yeah. Like, to your point, like you could go spend money to promote yourself, or you could spend money to lift up your community. And when you're doing good is good business.
Doing
you don't do
good
it
is good business.
Yeah, you don't do it because you know it's going to be good business. You do it because it's the right thing to do. And when you do that, when you donate food, you put food into the mouths of people. Then they go, "That was delicious."
But you got to learn too, right? Because like I made my way up the chain at CT Food Share. They cover all of Connecticut. 450,000 underserved people in Connecticut that don't know where their next meal is going to come from. 150,000 of those people are under the age of 12.
Wow.
Like, it's 2025.
Yeah.
That is fucked up.
That's real crazy.
We're in the restaurant business. We feed people,
Right.
and we find joy in eating, especially our food, because it's
Right.
fun to eat. It's delicious. It's sensory. So called up CT Food Share. Hey, we want to do a can drive. People come in. They can donate cans of food. We'll give them free food or percentage off, coupons, etc. The CEO, whose name is Jason as well, he said, come down and visit us. Let's show you what we do, how many people we serve. Totally changed my perspective. He's like, when you collect cans of cream corn and lima beans, you actually are creating more of a problem. We need money. And so I went down and I saw the facility. I mean, it's massive, state of the art. They are feeding so many people across the state. Every single food closet, donation center, church, school gets food from them, but they're not just getting these canned donations. They're buying fresh produce from Connecticut farms. They're getting seafood. They're getting meats. Like, they're working with grocery stores. I was blown away.
Yeah.
And so he's like, we need money. We need money, Jason. I was like, all right, great. So we started the Great Banana Pudding Drive. And every time we have banana pudding.
It looks good. I noticed it.
That's the toffee crunch one.
Oh, nice.
Every time we sell a banana pudding, we donate the cost of one meal, which is 50 cents, to CT Food Share. And so last year, we helped raise enough money to feed 100,000 meals, $50,000. It's a lot of money for a small business our size. And that's our big overarching sort of philanthropic endeavor. We donate, each store independently donates to their specific community as well.
Wow.
And it could be, sports sponsorship for a team, to just gift certificates for raffles, for small charities, things like that. But we're constantly doing this engagement where we're trying to get involved with police, fire, schools, you name it, come to us. I made a big announcement on Instagram that was like, if you have a soccer team, and now we're sponsoring like over a dozen soccer teams, which is good business for us,
Right.
Because we take care of the kids.
You
And
target
then
market too.
Every Saturday,
Let's get some check in.
they come after
Yeah.
the games and they come and eat,
Yeah.
right? And it's awesome to be part of that and to have our logo associated with them. But
It's something that you're passionate about, soccer. So you're combining your passion. You're giving
Absolutely.
That your passion.
Yeah.
Did I start this conversation, or did we start this conversation talking about how the restaurant industry can change the world?
You did.
With food.
Yes, you did.
And I think that's kind of the message, is that like when we share these values, doing good is good business. Like, we have transformative power in the restaurant industry to educate people about food and to feed people and to give opportunity to people. And I think when you put it through that lens and you make it about not just you, but to think about rippling out and bringing people up with you, that's
Yeah, I love it.
transformative power, man. I've had a lot of fun talking to you today. Before I do want to give a nod. You've been on my radar. I heard about you guys. I saw an email come out from Abhinav Kapoor with Bicky, a company that I think is doing really interesting things. I've been following.
Bicky's awesome.
You also use Ovation.
Love Ovation. Yep.
So I think I want to come back and talk about that stuff. I'm sorry we didn't get to talk about it today. Do you want to just give a quick testimonial to each one of those real quick?
Yeah. Ovation we've been using for a couple of years now. Ovation has given us a direct line to our guests so they can give us feedback and we can directly get right back to them in the moment. Every single one of our managers and assistant managers and every founder and everyone in our corporate team has access to the app, and we see every single review that comes through as a text message from a guest. And we can see what the guest had, when they ordered, all of the information, and we can immediately reply to the guests and say, thank you for the feedback. Here's what we're going to do. And so we've just learned so much about what our guests like, what they don't like. We've learned so much about ourselves, where we screw up, where we shine. Our ratings are fantastic.
Yeah.
We average a 4.6 across Yelp and Google and Ovation and all of these things. But we use Ovation as a weekly KPI that we look at with our managers, and it's directly attached to the performance of each and every store. And so like I would be lost without Ovation.
Does that integrate with Bicky at all?
Right now we don't have Ovation and Bicky integrated. Bicky is giving us a deep dive into who our guests are, what they're getting from us, where they're coming from, so we can better understand as we go into the future what our menu needs to look like, who we need to market to, how best to market to them so that we're not wasting time and money. Before Bicky, we were sort of sending out like blanket rockets.
Shocking.
Now we have heat-seeking missiles, right? Like we're not bugging people who are interested in Haven.
So you're segmenting your lists.
Yeah, and that's the surface. Like we're learning so much more.
I'm coming back. If you
so
let me.
much more.
I want to go deeper, but I do want to respect your time as well. Before I say goodbye, who do you respect and admire in the industry? This is really my North Star, how I try to prioritize connecting with my future guests. Who do you think I should get on the show?
Scott Lawton from Bar Taco. He's the man.
Scott, what's his last name?
Lawton, Lawton. He's a Connecticut guy. Was part of Barcelona.
I think I had him on the show.
Started Bar Taco. He's just like
I've had his business partner. Was it
Sasha?
Bar Taco? I'm drawing blanks right now. When you've done 1,200 episodes, it's hard to
That's
keep
a lot of
everybody
episodes.
straight. But man, this has been a lot of fun.
Scott's the man.
Scott, look out, I'm coming after you if I haven't already yet.
he will drop knowledge like you would not believe.
Neil Bodenheimer was the name I couldn't think of. Sorry, Neil. But how can we connect with you? If we enjoyed today's conversation, we want to follow up. Maybe we want to come work for you. Maybe we're interested in franchising with you. What's the best way?
Shoot me an email. That's the best way. Jason@havenhotchicken.com.
Any social handles?
I have LinkedIn, but I don't want you to go on it because it's that bad.
What about Haven Hot Chicken?
Haven Hot Chicken has at Haven Hot Chicken for Instagram. Check that one out. It's awesome. That's the one to go to.
We are over time. I want to respect your time. This is where I say thank you so much for letting me sit with you, ask all these invasive questions to learn more about your story and how you got here, man. I cannot do what I do without people like you, and there is no question. You are unstoppable.
Thank you very much. It was a blast.
Cheers.